In association with Inappropriate Earl and the Sit Down Zumock podcast, we bring you The Bad Guys Volume 7, one of the most requested guests from Andrew on my Patreon. He goes, I want Jim and Earl on the same podcast together, and he willed it. So, Earl, you do the intro.
Well, our co-host, or your co-host, is probably the only man on earth I've had an intelligent conversation with outside the Comedy Store about Mr. Vincent Cusano, otherwise known as Vinnie Vincent. He's one of the great comics working right now, and even better than being a great comic, he's a great dude, which is a rare combo in this business of sex offenders, pedophiles, and roast battle comics. The great Jim Florentine.
You know, we're going to have to figure out who has more of a drier delivery, me or Earl. It's going to be a competition around the next hour.
It's the battle of the dry voices.
I just woke up, so you know your voice is dry when you're drinking a Diet Coke to soothe it.
Nice. You know, I was never a big Vinnie Vincent fan. I was never a huge Kiss fan. I know he was in the band for a few albums, and he had a Vinnie Vincent Invasion. And then he kind of disappeared, and there was all these rumors of crazy shit going on in his life. But then he did that interview with Eddie Trunk a couple of years ago, resurfaced for a little bit, but now he's back on the ground.
I mean, I think he's primed for a Netflix documentary along the lines of Anvil, just because of his history and music of being in the Dan Hartman band, you know, who was the guy who sang that big 80s song, I Can Dream About You, writing jingles for Joni and Chachi, being in Kiss, getting kicked out of Kiss 3 times, being kicked out of the Vinnie Vincent Invasion, which is insane to me. And then his wife, his first wife, prostitute, found decapitated. You know, sending out a box set that I ordered that was completely empty when I got it. You know, there's a documentary with this guy, and now, like you said, rumors of possible sex change. I mean, if this guy doesn't get a show, I don't know who should.
And, you know, he didn't get a lot of royalties from Kiss. Those albums weren't huge sellers, so it's not like he could just live off those royalties the rest of his life. So he kind of went like the same way Jakey Lee went. Jakey played a couple albums with Ozzy, then had his own little band, Badlands, and then disappeared for 20 years.
That's another guy who I'm obsessed with because he's so talented. And I used to date a female manager from Motorhead, and she worked for Sharon Osbourne. She told me her first job was to go through all of Ozzy's pictures and cut out Jakey Lee. So he's kind of like the black dude in the Rolling Stones. He's there, but he wasn't.
Yeah, I noticed some. Who knows what went on? But they invited Jakey Lee to have his band play at the last when Ozzy did that show at the Forum on New Year's Eve a couple of years ago, to play outside because he had some bands play outside. So they were trying to mend fences and then maybe come up and play Bark of the Moon. But Jakey Lee said the money was too low and he didn't want to do it.
I mean, I saw him play at the Whiskey, I guess you call it his comeback show, a couple of years ago with Red Dragon Cartel, which is his second solo band. And he was great. Of course, he looks a little green around the gills, to be honest with you, but the singer was horrible. He that one Ozzy song, Rock and Roll Rebel, he was singing Rock and Roll Devil. And it's like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah, don't mess up a classic like that.
Gotta know the title of the song, bro. But, you know, he's just another recluse that, you know, the music industry burned. And I don't know, it's kind of sad because he's so talented.
Jim, one of Earl's favorite bands is Rat. He's a big Rat fan.
Look, Rat, you know, they were arena band. They hit that top for a little bit. Then, you know, the whole grunge came in and kind of knocked them off the top. But if you go back and listen to Rat, I mean, they got some great, if they have like a greatest hits, you'll know every song on there. And they're like great songs. If they put like a 13, 14 greatest hits album out or whatever. So no, they were good, man. You know, they weren't. I mean, I guess they were a hair band, but to me, they were just like a really good hard rock band. I didn't really consider them like a Poison or a Warrant.
Yeah, I mean they had a nice run. I think they were helped by being really the first metal band, maybe outside of the Crew, that MTV embraced, and Smart having Milton Berle in the videos, so you get a little the outside fan base of, I don't know this band, but that's Milton Berle. But they just seemed almost album by album to drop a little bit. They weren't exactly the best looking group of guys outside of Robin Crosby. And that was with the Bon Jovis and the Warrants and the Cinderella, the Poison, the Pretty Boy bands. So, but they had a nicer run than most bands, and they still tour. I think the problem with them is DeMartini, the guitar player. He's loaded. I think his wife is involved in the Mars Candy family, and so he doesn't want to go and play the Sturgis biker rally. He's like, I'll open up for Bon Jovi, but whereas Piercy would play a backyard barbecue.
Yeah.
That's kind of like you with the Hollywood Improv being a Skakel. You don't have to do it. You're loaded.
Well, I would play a backyard barbecue.
I have played backyard barbecues.
I'd play Jeff Ross's next pool party. Of course, I'd have to do an ID check, but.
Hey, Earl, did you ever read Bobby Blotzer's autobiography? It's great.
I mean, it was a little kind of woe is me, like,
yeah,
I'm not, but he was there, and I mean, him and Piercy never got along. Excuse me, but
I love how Florentine's making your voice more dry.
I know, Jesus. I feel like a porn star in a gangbang right now. Throat's wearing down.
It must be that homeless soot in the air in Los Angeles.
Oh my God.
Your voice.
Shout out to Gavin Newsom for letting guys park themselves outside my house in 3-bedroom tents. It's out of control, Jeff. I'm crazy. I might move in with Joey Diaz.
Joey Diaz told me he had to get out of town when gangbangers were coming down the street. When his kid was playing in the front yard, it was always a safe neighborhood he moved into. So he was there for like 15 years. Like, I got to go. It's time.
I mean, I'm not anti-homeless. We all hit a rough stretch in life. But, when I got guys taking doo-doos where I walk my dogs, and like I got to carry a broken hockey stick to defend myself. What is this, an extra scene in The Warriors?
Did you ever by mistake pick up the homeless shit instead of your dogs?
Well, when I had a German Shepherd, they took pretty equal-sized dumps. So, but one time I gave, it was so cold out here, and I know you guys are used to much colder weather than me, but I saw this homeless guy shivering, and I gave him my roast battle sweatshirt and said, you take it. And then the next night, I walked by and he's wiping his ass on Jeff Ross's name. I'm like, that's a bigger gift than the hoodie was to you, my friend.
Jesus Christ.
True story. I'm like, thank you, man. Let me go get you one of my Barbados leathers.
Now, Florentine, Earl used to do a podcast with Roddy Piper. He was the co-host for a long time, and he has all these great Roddy stories. But I think nobody in the history of wrestling has a better wrestling story than you. I think you have one of the best about how you used to collect wrestling pictures.
Yeah, I mean, I've told the story a bunch of times. I got molested for to get wrestling pictures. It was worth it. I mean, the guy gave me an Ivan Koloff picture with his belt. He said, this is going to be real rare one day, because he only had it for like 9 days, and I believed him. And I sat on his lap for it. And then I looked it up on eBay recently. It's only worth like 9 cents. So he lied to me, that pedophile. I can't believe it. I trusted him.
Does he host a show on Comedy Central?
They just passed him at the Laugh Factory.
He's hiding in Thailand right now. I found him on a sex offender's website.
Well, get him into roast battle. He'll fit in with that group.
But Earl, if you were 14 years old and this guy that takes wrestling pictures is in the front row, a photographer, and he offered you some pictures, wouldn't you sit on his lap, or wouldn't you give him a kiss on the cheek?
I mean, if it was a Nikita Koloff picture, I'd be balls deep in him right now.
It was the first, like he sold me on the Hulk Hogan bleeding, like there was no pictures of him bleeding, and this was a rare one because he took the pictures in Baltimore and that match wasn't televised. So like, well, that's worth a kiss on the cheek.
But that's like how predators work, man. They find something you want and like, you know, here we go, kid. Now I want something, and you're like, these Kamala ring-worn shorts are pretty cool.
Because he used to call, you know, he used to travel and the matches that weren't on TV, he said, hey, can I have your phone number? Because I'll call you and I'll tell you what happened at the match in Delaware or Baltimore or whatever. Then he would call me on the phone. I was like 14. And he'd be breathing real heavy when I was talking, asking about the match. I was like, did you just come in from a jog? Why are you so heavy? I didn't know what was going on.
Well, I mean, when you're that young, you know, you don't know about child molesting stuff, and that's why they pick you, because you're naive. And you know, I mean, I was Me Too'd by a casting director, you know, basically tried to get me to play with his balls on the Fox lot. Difference between you and me was I was 34. I don't know what was going on.
I mean, look, if the guy's going to give me the results of the superstar Billy Graham versus Bob Backlund match, the least I could do is let him jerk off to my voice. It was at 14, it was starting to get deep like this, so it must have been a turn on for him.
But that's back in the day. You know, I think I'm older than you. I'm 53, so like you did have to wait for the results in like either Pro Wrestling Illustrated or WWE magazine. You had to literally wait a month to find out, you know, did Abdullah the Butcher beat Killer Brooks with Gary Hart in his corner, you know, in Georgia, you know, 2 months ago. So if you had a pipeline for early results, you know, you got to do what you got to do.
That child molester was kind of innovative, though. Like he saw an angle. He's like, you know what? I could take these photos and get some young kid who wants the results. I mean, that was actually kind of innovative for a pedophile.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and there were $1 a picture at the time. So, you know, and that day when I was 14, that was a lot of money. And as a 14-year-old kid, that was, you know, I was a dishwasher making $3.35 an hour. I'm like, all right, you know, I could save a buck here, a buck there. And I still have the pictures. I still have them in the same scrapbook.
Then it was worth it.
It was. I mean, I show my son. I'm like, this is what Dad did for these pictures.
Well, how did it? I know you told the story on Diaz's podcast, but how did it end? Like, how did this all end with your brothers? Like, what was the exact ending? I forgot.
Yeah, I just, you know, he stayed over our house one time, and then I woke up in the morning and his hand down my pants. And what's that, Earl?
You probably didn't even think it was wrong. Like you know, you're a kid. Like
I thought it was his finishing move.
Well, I hope it was. I'd hate to see the follow-up move.
I mean, Rowdy's was the sleeper hold. He should have used that one.
I know. He could have put me to sleep and then did whatever he wanted to me. At least I wouldn't have known.
No, that was Pat Patterson's finishing move.
Oh, yeah. He had a few finishing moves.
Well, I will say when I used to go to there was this really violent organization in the mid-2000s called XPW. And it was basically ECW with no budget and less planning. And they had a gay wrestler named Angel, who I don't know if this guy was gay in real life, but if he wasn't, I would love to hire his acting coach, because his finishing move was, you know, he'd hit you, and instead of falling on your back to get pinned, you'd end up on all fours with your ass in the air, and he'd come behind you and pump you 3 times, and the ref would count you out. And you know,
are you serious?
Oh, I'm completely serious. I mean,
wait, but how was he pinned if he's on all fours?
Well, I guess the theory was if he pumped you 3 times in the ass, that was
the
like
guy gives up.
The referee. But they had some wacky. They had a tag team called the West Side. It starts with an N. and it rhymes with bigger. And they had merch, like they had little kids running around with the West Side, that word. And
this couldn't have been televised, right? This couldn't have been televised.
Oh yeah, it was on. I guess not public access, basically in LA, and then they got a little bigger because they started poaching ECW wrestlers. That's the match. That's the company where Vic Grimes got tased off the scaffold by New Jack. That was XPW.
Well, look, Earl, that gay guy, if he's going to pump you 3 times on all fours, that's when, if you're the opponent, you just tap out.
Yeah.
You don't have to be pinned. You just tap out.
It's like the figure 4 leg lock. You just got to tap out.
Yeah. I'm like, all right.
But it was, I saw the Dark Side of the Ring episode they did on it. It didn't capture the wildness. You had to be there live. I mean, their Howard Finkel, their ring announcer, was a guy who dressed in a Nazi outfit, and he would goose step to the ring going like that. I mean, it was wild.
That's great.
But didn't your brothers beat the shit out of the child molester guy or something?
Yeah, because after he put his hand down my pants, I ran, and he gave me a bunch of pictures not to tell anybody. So I went through his photo album. I picked out like 20, and then as soon as I got the pictures, then I told my older brothers, and they wound up beating him up and sending him back on a bus to New York City.
Where he probably did it to another kid. Like,
oh yeah, no, I went on Howard Stern originally and told this story, and I had like 20 different people around the country email me and say, was it this guy's name? He did the same thing to me. Yeah, all the stuff. So,
I mean, that's how they operate, man. I mean, it's like Pat Patterson went from the Brooklyn Brawler to trying Shawn Michaels, and then Sid Vicious has that funny story about that they were somewhere and Pat Patterson was like massaging his back. And can you imagine trying to fuck Sid Vicious? Like,
he's like 6'9".
He's the type of guy who's pretty straight, isn't down with that. So, but that's how aggressive they can be. Is Pat Patterson? I'm going to get this guy.
Yeah, he worked for the WWE for a long time. He was Vince's right-hand man.
I think he still works for the WWE, right, Earl?
No, he died recently, I think.
Oh, I think he's
still alive. I think.
Oh, maybe he is. I thought maybe, but no, he worked for them for a long time.
But you're right, though. I mean, so many wrestlers die. You think, wow, how is Pat Patterson still alive at his age? I mean, that's why Piper going to 61 was like actually kind of amazing.
Oh, did you watch? Did you watch the WWE thing about Roddy Piper, Jim? I don't
know.
The A&E like biography
thing.
Oh
yes, yeah, I watched it. It was great. Yeah,
that dude was a bare knuckle boxer, like bare knuckles. That's how he survived early on before wrestling.
Well, he was legit tough. I mean, anyone who's trained by Stu Hart in the dungeon, you're not just, like the Ultimate Warrior was a bodybuilder. He was just fucking around doing wrestling. He didn't really care about it. You train with Stu Hart, you were tough.
Yeah. No, that's when I got out of wrestling after Piper's Pit. After that I checked out for a while. Then my kid got back into it, so I got into it for a little, but now he's back out. I'm back out.
Yeah, I'm not even.
I will say, give AEW a chance, Jim. Like,
no, I believe me. If we watch it, we watch AEW. AEW blows away WWE.
That guy MJF, he's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, we will tune in every couple of Wednesday nights just to check it out, and it's great. It blows away WWE. I mean, WWE now they're like family friendly now. They get rid of so many good. Just every other match. My son and his friends, 11 years old, got into it, but there was every other match is a female match. He's like, all right, enough with the fucking girls.
Yeah,
bring back the fabulous Moolah. She had no ass, but she had great tits.
I mean, I definitely jacked it to Fabulous Moolah when I was 15, 16. But even she was supposed to be kind of predatory with the women. Like, hey, if you want to play ball, I mean, I think pro wrestling may be the only business that's more predatory than stand-up comedy. Like, and I'm being serious. Like, you need to elevate to the higher levels, you either have to, suck someone's pee-pee or do something you're not comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, look, the guys are walking around in friggin', tights, basically underwear, and the girls are scantily clad, so some shit's gonna go down backstage. It's just the way it's gonna be.
I mean, and what you have to put up with. It's probably why they die at such an early age. They probably drink and do drugs to get their mind past what they have to do and people they have to deal with. I mean, that one segment on Raw, like 10 years ago, Vince McMahon called Booker T the N-word, and he had to take it.
Well, did he deserve it?
Well, no, I mean, it was just yeah. I mean, he just had to sit there and smile because it was part of the written segment.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, one thing I know for a fact, you guys got a weird little connection, and Jim, he used to be married, and he had a wedding song. Who did your wedding song, Jim?
It was a Whitesnake song.
And
which one?
Shit.
Slide It In.
No, yeah, Easier Said Than Done. It was off the Forevermore record.
Oh, okay, that's great.
And Earl was good friends with Tawny Katane, so there's your connection. You got it, connections.
Yeah, I never met Tawny, unfortunately. I know she would host some metal festivals here and there. I just never got a chance to meet her.
She would have loved you, man. She was like a dude. She fucked a lot of dudes.
Yeah.
She'd come up to the Comedy Store and she hooked up with a comic or two. I was not one of them. But she oddly developed a crush on me because I was the only guy not trying to fuck her up there. So it was
really?
But she was awesome though. Just a tortured soul. We all know many in comedy and, she's good peeps.
Yeah. It's too bad, but I know that she was, she would host these metal festivals. I just never got a chance to meet her.
Were you friends with Dave Coverdale, Jim?
I know him from the show. He actually gave me an acoustic, like a violin version of that song that they never released for my wedding song. When I told him it was going to be my wedding song, so he gave me an exclusive version of that song.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because I told him, I said, "Hey, it was like a few months before the wedding, and I told him what the song was. He goes, "Oh, I got a version that's never been released. I'm going to send it to you. Use that. It's perfect."
Did he give you a divorce song?
No, he didn't. But I was trying to think of one if they had one that might have been. But
no, he was writing you one. It never got finished. Called "All Women Are Whores."
Yeah, he's just
especially all of them.
What's the landscape like out there now? I mean, Jim's in Jersey with Joey Diaz. I'm down here in Florida. What's the store like? What's the vibe? What's going on?
I mean, there's definitely less star power, I guess you'd say. I mean, when you look at, who left, Rogan, Joey, Theo, Tim Dillon, and Seaburn. But the lineups are still strong. I mean, it's like wrestlers, Hulk Hogan leaves, you put in the Ultimate Warrior, and hopefully he makes it work. Ultimate Warrior leaves, you put in Sid. And, I mean, every comic's replaceable. I think Emily at the store is doing a great job. I mean, given what she's had to work with. I mean, she walked into a 14-2 team, all the free agents left. So
yeah, they dismantled the Comedy Store like the Marlins in 1997 after they won the World Series.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a fire sale.
Yeah,
definitely different, but it's still sold out every night. And, I guess the stores like the Yankees, it's always going to be the place, and like the Cellar as well. But you're seeing a lot of comics get opportunities that they probably wouldn't if all those guys and girls were, still here.
And that's good. You know what I mean? It's good they bring the up and comers and stuff. People that it's tough to get those slots. When I used to come in and do Sam Tripoli's show on a Tuesday or Wednesday, man, get off a plane and be on Murderers Row, that lineup. I'm like, holy shit. is insane. So, and there's no room for new guys when you have those killers and guys that could bring people into the club at that time. So,
oh yeah, I mean there were
getting a shot.
There were lineups that I was on, of course, toward the end. But hey, you're on the lineup, and I was like, I don't even think I should be on this lineup. Like Rogan, Marin, Whitney, Cummings, not Eli Whitney, and all these Ian Edwards, and you, and like it was just like, wow, this is. I just hope I can, because at that point when you go on toward the end, or like tonight I'm going on last. I don't know who's on the lineup, but. They've heard every joke. They've heard every crowd work, especially if Rick Ingram's on the show because he's like the king of crowd work. You got 1 minute before they start looking at, okay, which exit do I leave out of? So, but I like it. It works out most nights than not. But, it's kind of like being the last guy in a gangbang. You're just happy to be there, I guess. That's overrated. I got no problem. Like if Chad was going to go in a gangbang, I think we talked about this. He needs to go first.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I got to go first, or at least second.
I'd rather have warmed up a little. I don't care. Whatever spot you want to put me in the lineup. I mean,
this sounds like a full of shit answer, but I'm genuinely so honored, or whatever the word is, to be up there that I could care less when I go on.
Right, exactly. It's like they're making out the order, like you're going to go last. All right, I'll go last.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I can call Emily and say, hey, can I go on ahead of Sebastian? Because, my cartoon's been canceled for 2 years. It's back in rerun.
Yeah, but I don't want to follow Sebastian. That's the thing. I'd rather go first, get it out of the way.
Are we talking comedy or gangbang?
I'm putting comedians in a gangbang.
Well, look, I mean, that's the time to follow guys like monsters and, killers like Sebastian is at the Comedy Store on a Tuesday night. If you ever have to do a TV taping and got to follow some killer, you're going to be ready for it. You do it on a Tuesday at the Comedy Store when no one's there to watch, or you're not exposed. So that's how you learn.
But what if she's just like, I like that guy before you? Like, what are you doing here? This sucks. You're bombing.
Are we talking about the gangbang or
I'm trying to merge them together.
All right. No, I'm just saying, just go whatever play. Look, I don't know. You don't have enough TV credits to pick what spot you want to go, Chad. So if the girl wants you going fourth, you're going fourth.
And then a lot of times at the store, and I don't know if like the sellers like this or other like the stand, like people are late because they're either filming something or whatever. And like I had to follow Joey one night on one of those Murderers Row type Tuesday nights because I think Rogan's podcast ran late, and then Whitney didn't show up, and Sebastian was filming something, and there's literally like 6 people before me, like either were late or canceled. So they're like, Earl, you're next. And Joey's killing. Like he is like, I don't think I've ever seen him bomb. And it's like a Kiss concert in there. And then he gave me a very nice intro. And, I survived. I didn't kill, but, you got to be prepared, at these places, because I'm sure New York's the same. People are late or don't show up at all.
Well, I told Jim the story. I told you, Earl, when I was living there and I was miserable and I hadn't gotten spots in 2 weeks. And I went down to see Sarah Mello's show, and I'm just in the green room. And she's like, hey, Bill Burr didn't show. Do you want to go up? And I'm like, oh, me for Bill Burr? Yeah, that's so I had to go up. And I went on after your boy Jeff Ross, and I had to bring up Diaz to close it out. I was shitting my pants, sold out main store comedy room. I'm up there for 12 minutes. People are like, who the fuck is this guy? You could feel them going to the restroom. I mean, I pulled it out of my ass, but it was definitely hard. It was definitely a mental fuck.
Earl, Earl, don't you think the shows would go better if there was an MC to just kind of like calm down the room for a minute or two in between after a Joey Diaz kills, and then he brings you right back up to reset the room?
I mean, yeah. I think the problem with an MC at the Comedy Store specifically is, I would say 80% of the comics run the light, and so the shows run long anyway. Like tonight, I'm closing out the main room at 10:30. So I'm guessing I'm going to go on at 11:15.
Really? That late? Wow.
So I think the only problem with a host, like Fraser Smith is like the best host in town, along with Gary Cannon. I'm not sure if they're known in the East Coast scene, but they're like the perfect host. But I think it would extend the show too long. But
Okay. Yeah.
like the improv seems a little more like, for whatever reason, people don't run the light there as much. But I think because the Comedy Store's got like that rock and roll vibe, people kind of, it's run a little looser than most clubs, which is why it has their, I guess their ambiance of anything can happen.
Yeah.
So.
When I've told Jim before, when I was living there and I was just at the worst I've ever been mentally. If it wasn't for Earl, Brody, for the short time I was living there, Eleanor, and a few others, I would have, like, I don't know what I would have done. So they were always like the cool ones, always the cool ones to talk to.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a good group. I talk a little trash about the LA scene, but it's a pretty good group of people. I mean, the bad people are, I'm sure Jim can vouch for the New York scene. They're there too, and you just deal with it. I mean, thing is, you have to deal with it, or you can quit, and nobody will care.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on to the next thing. I said you guys were going to be on the show on Facebook and Twitter, so I took a question. If that's cool, would you guys answer a question from one of your fans? No.
Yeah.
I'll answer Jeff's questions.
Yeah.
This one's from Johnny Richter. I don't know. He says, what is the greatest 80s hair band between Earl and Jim? I'll take your answer off the air, whatever that means.
That's what they do on sports talk radio. Yeah, first time listener, long time caller. I'll let Jim go first.
I don't know. That's tough. That first Poison record is a classic. So, the second one was good and they kind of went downhill after that. I'm thinking like Poison, Warrant, like Firehouse, those kind of bands are more the hair bands, unlike like a Motley Crue or a Rat. Then you got Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi's wrote some great songs too. I don't know. Then you got Kix. You throw Kix in the mix. Kix is one of those underrated bands. And then Cinderella, who was considered a hair band, but they really weren't. They're more of a blues band. They got lumped into that too. I don't know, man. That's a tough one. If pound for pound, I'd go with Cinderella.
It's a strong pick. I mean, I think it depends on what you consider a great band. Like if you're going like skill wise, Dream Theater, they're like virtuosos. But I can't name you one of their songs. I'd much rather listen to Warrant, Rat, Cinderella. Jim's right. Cinderella is probably the best merging of talent, looks, songs. I mean, Bon Jovi, they had a lot of help from Desmond Child. And yes, I'm a straight man who bought the Desmond Child box set. It slaps, as the kids say.
I didn't know he had a box set out. I knew he put a couple records out, or at least one.
Well, the best is his song that got a lot of play on MTV called Love on a Rooftop, where he has to make out with a girl. I think everyone knows he's gay, so he should have won an Oscar for that video. His box set is amazing, especially if you're a metal fan, because he wrote basically all of Aerosmith's hits after their comeback, Kiss in the 80s, but every Bon Jovi hit, Cher, the great Kane Roberts.
Former Alice Cooper guitar player.
His Saints and Sinners album, which came out in '91, is basically songs Desmond Child wrote for everyone else and they rejected.
Really?
He got them all. So, but I would say Cinderella.
Stryper too. I like their first few records.
Oh yeah, they were big, and especially in the California area, they were like pretty epic. They would throw Bibles out in the crowd.
Yeah. Soldiers Under Command is a great record.
Oh yeah, they had a nice run. I think their shtick was a little too hokey, mainstream for the country, but for California, they were like a top selling band on the Strip. And I once met Robert Sweet, the drummer, backstage at a Vince Neil show, and backstage at a Vince Neil show is usually the kitchen of the venue. And I thought, oh, I'm a comic. I'll try and be funny to this guy. And I walked up to him, I tapped him on the shoulder, and he turns around. I'm like, hey, man, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I always wanted to fuck you until I found out you were a dude. They just looked at me like, get out of my face, man. I bombed in front of Robert Sweet. But he was beautiful.
Like, yeah, he was. He was a good, yeah. He was like better looking than his brother Michael, and Michael's no slouch.
Yeah, I mean, Michael's like a solid California 7.
Yeah.
But Robert Sweet he looked like Farrah Fawcett. Like,
yeah.
Beautiful. He didn't think I was funny,
So you just bombed.
Well, I bombed hard in the kitchen.
Plus, he's cursing in front of the drummer and Striper. You probably, they were trying to uphold that image.
I mean, he had a great, yeah. I mean, I forgot, oh, this guy's a reborn Christian. And those guys, it wasn't a shtick with them. They really were reborn Christians. So I erred in judgment, Jim and Chad.
I know Michael Sweet, so I've done some cruises and stuff like that. He's come to my comedy show, him and his wife. And before I went on, I'm like, hey, Michael, is it okay if I curse and tell some sex jokes? If you shut up, go do your thing. What you think I'm uptight about that? Like, I just bust his balls.
I mean, he was probably an altar boy. He gets it.
I got another question from Adam Hughes says, and I know this is a troll. And actually, Earl and I were talking before you jumped on the Zoom, because Earl was a big fan of your show with Eddie Trunk and Don Jameson. And I know this guy's trolling because you get this question quite a bit. I think we want the answer. Ask Florentine if he ever thought about bringing that metal show back. Also, has he ever thought about bringing it to Netflix?
It's weird. I never thought about like that Netflix has programming on there. And they might have put an old TV show on there and then maybe pick it up, bring it back. That's a great idea. I mean, fuck. I'm surprised Don Jameson or Eddie Trunk didn't think about that either. Yeah, that's a great look. When I'm done with this, I'm gonna call Netflix myself and say, look, I was on this TV show that got canceled 6 years ago. You probably never heard of it unless you're a Dokken fan. I don't have the rights to the show. I was just one of the hosts. I don't own it. I don't have anything like that, but I think that you guys should take it. Because usually actors do that. Like if an actor gets canceled on a TV show that they're on, I'm sure they could just go to the other networks and go, hey, could you pick up Friends?
Yeah.
I was Joey on Friends. I was wondering if you want the show. Oh, do you own it, Joey? No, I don't know. No, I was just an actor, but could you put it on? I'm sure, isn't that how it works? I don't know.
Well, earlier, your cartoon was canceled. Did you call Cartoon Network?
Yeah.
I called Tyler, the creator, and he was like, who are you? I'm like, it's the dad on your cartoon. Welcome to Hollywood, Earl. It's a tough business.
Once the network, when that metal show got canceled like 6 years ago, we had an agent actually go out to Hollywood and have meetings about bringing the show somewhere else. And nobody in Hollywood ever even heard of the show. Not one TV person heard of the show.
But I think I'm not just saying this because we're talking, like there's a market for it. It's small, it's a niche market, but like it's kind of like hockey is a niche sport, but it's on networks because you just need one metalhead who's an executive to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to find out what Jakey Lee's up to. I mean, I watched that interview; it was great. I want to hear Rudy Sarzo talk about the 50 bands he's been in. I think he's in Grand Funk Railroad right now. That guy.
He's back in Quiet Riot.
Yeah, he's back in Quiet Riot now.
How do you have Quiet Riot?
He was in Blue Oyster Cult for a while. Like that was his project before that. Now he's back in Quiet Riot.
But like, if Anvil can get a Netflix documentary, there's no way that metal show shouldn't be on. And with all the streaming networks now, they need programming. You just can't show Commando and Over the Top on loop.
Why? That you would love that. That's all you want to see.
Earl, by the way, I know you're a big fan. I just showed my 11-year-old son Rambo 2 the other night. He fucking loved it.
I mean, it's a good sequel, but that first Rambo is literally me, Jim, and LA comedy. So I bond with it a little more. I figured
11-year-old, there's more action in 2 that he might like 2. So let me start him off with 2, and then I'll go back. I might go to 3 and then go to 1.
Well, 3 is the one they go to the Afghanistan, right? He's fighting for Afghanistan. That's why they don't really promote it.
Yeah, so I don't want to start him off with one. It's like if you're gonna start get someone in the Metallica, start him off with Master of Puppets,
Right.
and then maybe go to the Black. Or start him with the Black Album, Master of Puppets. Don't start him off with Kill 'Em All, because that's too heavy and might turn him off.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. No 11-year-old's going to see that first Rambo and go, yeah, I want to see the second one.
Yeah, so I said, let me get, and he loves the Murdoch. I'm coming to get you. That's his favorite.
I just love the story of, like Rocky. No one wanted to make Rambo. They were like, dude, no one wants to see a movie about a Vietnam vet losing his mind. So, like,
Earl, do you ever hear that song? You know that band Wednesday 13?
Yeah.
You ever hear that song Rambo that they wrote?
No.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, look it up. It's Rambo. It's all about, Rambo and stuff. He's a big Rambo fan. He used to come out on stage with like a machine gun, like did the song and shit. It was funny, but it's a good song. I play it for my kid all the time. He loves it.
I mean, Stallone's a good actor.
But what do you think? You're a Rambo expert. What's the next one he should watch after I turn him on to Rambo 2?
What about the last one he just made where he goes and gets his kid? It's almost like Taken with what's his name? The fucking
Liam Neeson.
Yeah, it's like Rambo's like Taken now. He's going to take care of business.
Well, I mean, that's a tough one. 11 years old, I would say. Not that I know what 11-year-olds want.
By the way, this is an important podcast for all you parents out there, so please listen.
Well, it's a generation thing. I thought the last Rambo was horrible because it was so unrealistic. Now, I know it's a movie, but like I know when I watch Predator, there's not an actual alien killing 7 dudes in the jungle. But I still like the storyline, like wrestling, to be somewhat realistic. The fact that Stallone kills off a whole wing of the Colombian cartel by himself, like I can't get behind. Like the first Rambo is believable. Like I could see this happening.
Yeah.
But an 11-year-old would probably like the last Rambo because it's like that Fast and Furious type of violence. And
nah, he's not really into that kind of stuff. So he's more, he doesn't like the action kind of shit like that. I mean, Rambo 2, but I think maybe you like Rambo 3. It's funny how he noticed when he goes, Murdoch, I'm coming after you. He's like, oh, Dad, that's sort of like in Taken when Liam Neeson says, I'm going to find you and I will kill you. He goes, that's pretty similar. I'm like, that's cool that an 11-year-old could pick up on that. Yeah, it's basically like, holy shit, that's the line.
I mean, I like the first Taken. The second one was, all right, we get it. How many bad situations does this guy's family get into?
The third one was better than the second one, Taken.
I mean, I just saw the Liam Neeson Ice Trucker movie on, I think, it's either Amazon or Netflix, and that's cleansed my mind of any good work Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
It was like, this was like a script that Jeff Speakman would have passed on. And, that's great. The Perfect Weapon, which was his one shot at a movie, and he never got a second shot.
I got one more question on the Facebook. I put this out there, and Steve, because I said you were doing the podcast with Earl and I call it a swap cast. Jim calls it we're doing 2 separate podcasts. And go ahead.
No reason to call it that. If Earl wants to use it for his podcast and you use it for yours, that's all you have to say. No reason to say that dumb word. Nobody knows what it is. Anyone that listens to podcasts doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about. That's inside fucking, that's like when people work at a restaurant talk about like fucking, we were slammed. We 86 that. They're like, what the fuck I don't know what your fucking lingo is. Be a fucking person. I don't know. I've never worked in a restaurant.
But Earl and I, we come together like once a month and we do these podcasts.
Okay, so yeah, Earl puts it on his feed and you put it on yours. We both release it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get the technical jargon. Like, Beyonce is 28. She tells me the Killers slap. I'm like, what the hell is that, man? Like, are they? When we saw the Killers with Weezer, and the Killers did like, I'd never seen them before, so I was like kind of in awe of their production. Almost like an 80s metal vibe with the showmanship and all that stuff. And they played a song called The Man. And she's like, "This song's a bop. You'll like it." I'm like, "I don't know what a bop is." Like, say it's a good song. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, when you're dating a 20-year-old, 28-year-old, you got to deal with that.
Yeah,
one of the repercussions, or she's going to be like, "Oh my God, you hear the new Drake song?" No, I didn't.
Oh yeah, she's amazing. I mean, she tells me about Drake, and I tell her about Brittany Fox. She's like, "Who are them?" Like, that's Diet Cinderella, Holmes.
Yeah. Tell when she gets home from work, tell her about the sleazebees.
Oh my, yeah. And then follow that up with a nice juicy cup of Bang Tango.
But Steve says he wants to ask Florentine, since he's doing a podcast with us, who's his favorite bad guy in movie and TV. Since we've had on Vernon Wells. Who have we had on? That we've had on everybody.
Cobra, Brian Thompson.
And Jim's like our only comedian. No, I take that back. We had Robert Wool.
What the fuck was that movie? It was part 2 of.
You love part 2s.
The part. What's the movie where they sewed their assholes together?
Roast Battle Season 2.
No.
The Centipede one.
Centipede 2. That's the worst. That's the fucking best bad guy ever in film.
I mean, I never saw it, so I'll take your
word.
Oh,
Centipede 2 is phenomenal. He's the creepiest fucking bad guy ever.
The Human Centipede.
Human Centipede 2.
Oh.
That's my favorite bad guy.
I think that was on Channel J with Al Goldstein hosting.
This movie looks
They made a Human Centipede 3, but it wasn't that good. 1 was pretty good. It set it up, but 2 is a masterpiece.
I'll take your word for it.
I'm telling you, watch that. Nobody creepier on camera than that guy.
Not even Earl?
I could think of a few comics.
Well, Jim, I know you're up against it. You got a heart out. Can I say that?
What is that? That's no more fucking lingo that nobody knows what you're talking about. Nobody that has a regular job knows what fucking heart out means. We're not living. We're not in Hollywood. We're not at a fucking Disney Studios trying to pitch a show. I got a heart out. Can I get 5 minutes?
Earl, I know Jim so well. It's like the volleyball scene in Top Gun. I just set it up so Maverick can come in from the spike.
No, this is like that scene in Boogie Nights when they're trying to get the Masters back, and the old guy's like, "That's a YP, not an MP." And like, "What's YP, MP? I don't know this technical talk."
How about when the guy's wife? I forget who's it. The guy's wife's getting fucked on the driveway, and he's like, "What kind of light should we use tomorrow?" He's like, "My wife's. Could you just pay attention? Just let me know what light. My wife's getting fucked right over here."
Hey, fuck it. It's just the production of the film. I mean, Jack wants a minimalist shoot. Well, they had to film all the Colonel's scenes first because he was dying in real life. So the director was such a fan of Robert Ridgely, who played the Colonel, that they had to. And if you watch that last scene where the black guy's beating him up in prison because he's a child molester. So we've come full circle on this podcast that, you can see he looks like he's dying. It's like, oh, wow, it's kind of creepy.
The funniest scene for me in Boogie Nights is when Philip Seymour Hoffman tries to make out with Mark Wahlberg, and he realized he didn't want him to, and he's in the car. I'm such an asshole. I'm such an ass. Then he's crying. That's one of the funniest scenes ever in a movie.
That's when I knew Mark Wahlberg was a good actor, because he pretended like he didn't want to make out with him.
I've seen that scene 1,000 times with a comic giving a Comedy Store waitress a ride up the hill. I think my favorite scene in Boogie Nights is, I'm obsessed with it, when the girl's ODing in the bedroom and that really good-looking guy is like, "I think she OD'd." And the Colonel's like, "What do you think that means, doctor? Maybe she gets some new shit."
Such a classic. I know Burt Reynolds hated that movie. Like, he was pissed after he filmed it before it came out, that it was like a porno, and he was fucking trashing it and stuff.
Yeah, I think he was like, they were fighting with the director constantly. And, you think about most of the actors on that set were pretty young. Burt Reynolds is probably pretty ornery at that point of his life.
Yeah.
really.
Now, that scene with the little Asian kid with the firecrackers is the best scene in the movie.
With the
There's
Night
no
Ranger
reason
song
for that scene. There's no reason for it, but it's amazing.
He's like, don't worry about him, he's Asian. That was his excuse.
And they keep flinching every time a firecracker goes off, so they're all coked up. They just keep so great.
See, I think the reason behind that scene was, and it kind of brings it back to metal talk, was in real life that guy was Eddie Nash, who owned the Starwood, which Motley Crue got their start at when they were called London. Quiet Riot was the house band. And that guy was the #1 coke dealer in the West Coast, but he was also gigantic in launching bands. Like the
I didn't
Starwood.
know that about him.
Yeah, no. If you look up Eddie Nash and look up the Starwood, he gave Van Halen their start, in clubs, and that's where Kiss saw, or that's where Gene Simmons saw Van Halen play for the first time, and also he was associated with John Holmes, the porn star, and those 4 murders. So I think that's because Boogie Nights is loosely based off of John Holmes, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he made Sister Christian famous in that scene.
Night Ranger. I downloaded it right away.
So I just saw them a month ago. Still unbelievable live.
Who was on drums? Was it Kelly Keagy?
Yeah, he was back. He's back he's back. I know he had a heart attack or something. He was back. Brad Gillis on guitar, fucking phenomenal.
Because I know when Kelly Keagy's sick or he can't make the gig, Fred from Cinderella fills in, so it's kind of a.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they don't get the credit for being as good as they are, It's because
that first Night Ranger record is great, and even the later stuff is good too. It's album friendly hard rock shit, and if that's what you're into, I like putting them on every once in a while.
Oh, I mean, I still like the Ozzy album. It's the live album. I think it's called "Speak of the Devil" that Brad Gillis was on. Because when you think of the pressure Brad Gillis was under, I think Randy Rhoads was dead maybe 2 weeks. They tried out the one beatnik, Bernie Taupin or something like that.
Yeah, he was on. He played like 6 shows or something like that, and Brad Gillis took over. But the reason they put that album out, "Speak of the Devil," is because Black Sabbath at the time was putting a live album out with Ronnie James Dio. So for Sharon, just to fuck Sabbath, goes, we got to put an album of Sabbath covers out before their album release. So they went to like the Ritz in New York City and did 2 shows in one day. Rudy said they had 48 hours to learn those Sabbath songs, and they recorded and put it out before Sabbath put their live album out. Fucking great. I love that shit.
I mean, that just shows you how good Brad Gillis is. That I think Sarzo at least had some knowledge of the Sabbath catalog. Like, I'll assume Brad Gillis, outside of Paranoid, probably wasn't a gigantic fan.
Yeah.
Maybe he was, but like.
And Tommy Aldridge on drums, fucking monster. He's still out there playing. He's amazing.
And he looks younger than he did back then.
Yeah, he's got to be friggin' 77, 78.
I mean, what a good-looking guy.
Yeah, we'll end on that. Good-looking guy. Hey, I want to promote this. This is Jim's special, Bite the Bullet. It's debuting on your YouTube channel. Jim, when's it going to pop and come out and drop?
December 13th. Please don't say that. You're not a rapper. This isn't 1996. Nothing drops. I'm putting it out.
December 13th?
December 13th, youtube.com/Jim Florentine comedy.
Okay, yeah, go subscribe to Jim's channel. And Earl, what about you?
What's putting it out means? I don't get that lingo.
And you don't have, if you go to my YouTube channel, please, you don't have to smash the like button. Just hit it. I don't know who came up with that, but it's fucking stupid.
I'm not going to plug anything, Chad, because I respect Jim so much.
Plug, please.
I've nothing to
plug your YouTube channel so I could smash your like button.
That's I'm at Earl Skakel on every platform, including TikTok and the Sex Offenders Database. Go buy Jim's album. You people listening,
it's a special. It's a special, actually. It's like an actual live performance.
Jim's one of the greats in this business for many reasons. A good dude, a good comic, and trust me, that ain't a combo that's likely mixed together in this business. Comics are savages, animals, awful people. Jim's not one of them. He's a good one.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks. Coming from you, Earl.
Well, I mean, and you know who Vinnie Vincent is. I can't converse with most people in 2021 who don't know who he is.
I know the history of Vinnie Vincent. I know he lives in Tennessee, outside of Nashville somewhere. Allegedly, he might have killed some dogs. And Earl has a 28-year-old girlfriend. God bless.
She's
her.
hot too.
Listen,
Of course she is. Earl's not going to fucking, you know.
I mean, come
You
on,
think he's
man.
going to not go for a hot? At 28, she's got to be hot. You're going to
I'm
put up with that.
53. You know, sure, when she was, when I was 25, she was -0. It's not creepy at all.
No, I'll let you know.
Right now, I'm doing bits that I'll probably get my own show on Comedy Central now.
So is Row Girl back, or should we tease it for next episode?
Real Girl is back. Jim said I can plug one thing. I have a new show coming out on the PAX network. It's Toast Battle, where we feature overweight comics eating. The first episode is Ralphie May's Ashes against Bruce Bruce. Right now I'm doing bits. It's time to end it. Jim's got a hard out.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, for Earl Skakel, thanks again, Jim Florentine. Leave a 5-star review on the iTunes. Good night, everybody. Thanks.